Breaking news, recreational marijuana is now legal in New York. Governor Cuomo just signed a bill passed by state lawmakers overnight. So what does this mean for anyone looking to partake? Here's Eyewitness News reporter Derek Waller.
And here's what this legislation means. New Yorkers will soon be able to possess marijuana legally in public. You can also grow it at home, but at least for now, you will still have a hard time finding a place to purchase it legally. It creates a brand new industry, raking in hundreds of millions in tax dollars and eliminating an issue many saw as an injustice toward Black and Latino New Yorkers.
We have consistently fought for economic, social, and criminal justice for all New Yorkers. Our plan for adult use marijuana legalization takes an intelligent, compassionate approach to this issue and further defines New York State as a progressive leader that we are.
But it could be a year or more before retail dispensaries pop up as the state creates a brand new regulatory agency. Cannabis will be taxed at 13%, creating a potential windfall of new revenue. But the state PTA and some police remain opposed. Cops worried about people getting high and driving a car. They say the law does not offer a clear way to detect impairment and make an arrest.
So if we're only doing this for revenue, that's really a poor reason to put people's lives in danger.
Statistic after statistic, fact after fact shows that in states that have legalized recreational marijuana, children are harmed, motorists are harmed, the public is harmed.
Overnight, Attorney General Letitia James came out in favor, saying it's a racial and criminal justice imperative. For too long, people of color have been disproportionately impacted by an outdated and short-sighted marijuana prohibition, and it's past time we right this wrong. Mayor de Blasio praised the legislation late this morning.
Still want to make sure that the voices of localities are heard and respected in this process, but this is a hugely important moment for the state of New York.
And Governor Cuomo said this law establishes substantial safeguards for the public, but already some communities are pushing back. That law actually allows local governments to decide if they want those dispensaries in their communities. And right now, at least 2 Long Island mayors say they will not be allowing it.
New York lawmakers are on the verge of a deal to legalize adult recreational marijuana, a bud business boom eventually generating $3.5 billion a year in economic activity, according to estimates by Governor Andrew Cuomo's office. That may seem sky high, but take a look at more developed markets. Marijuana has been legal in Colorado since 2012. With less than a third of the population of New York, sales in the Rocky Mountain state topped $2.2 billion last year. California, with twice as many people, saw $4.4 billion.
Anytime you're starting a market from scratch, it takes time to set up. So I think the projections that I've been seeing, it's going to be about $1.2 billion in the first year.
The new law would create state licenses for farmers, distributors, makers, and retail locations where users could consume product on site, such as in lounges. The governor's office estimates it could create 60,000 new jobs and $300 million in tax revenue when the program matures. Blacks and minorities have historically been arrested more frequently than whites for low-level marijuana charges. The new law calls for an automatic review of those with low-level marijuana-related convictions and expunging the charges from their records. That would go a step beyond previous similar efforts by the governor. In 2019, after Cuomo signed a law removing criminal penalties for minor possession, over 150,000 had their previous marijuana convictions sealed. This bill hopes to tackle the economic imbalances. About 40% of the revenue would go to a new social equity fund for programs that help address those harmed by marijuana arrests, like job placement, housing, and legal barriers to reentry. While in the works for years, the push comes as Cuomo faces calls to resign after a series of sexual misconduct allegations and is seen as an olive branch to progressives, among the loudest calling for him to go. The law could be signed as early as this week, making New York the 15th state to legalize recreational marijuana and follows recent legalization by its neighbor, New Jersey.
I don't think it's going to be an immediate impact. I think New York is probably looking at 18 months to 2 years before legalization. So in the next 2 years, when the American Rescue Plan funding has been spent, this will be a new revenue stream that's up and running.
While some conservatives support the measure around medical aid, personal choice, and freeing up law enforcement resources, others highlight driver safety, health, and gateway drug concerns as ongoing sticking points. But supporters have heavily touted the business benefits, an easier pitch to some of those potential opponents in a time when state revenues are crushed by the pandemic. But what happens to those state revenues if marijuana is legalized on a federal level and those homegrown farmers and distributors now have to compete with national players?
If federal marijuana or cannabis policy changes, the benefits of a self-contained industry within a state can evaporate.
But for now, the loosening could be a boon for state tourism and leisure industries, ravaged by pandemic shutdowns and giving international visitors another reason to visit, and potentially a new meaning to a New York state of mind.
History made tonight here in New York State. Minutes ago, the New York State Legislature passed the bill that will legalize marijuana for recreational adult use.
Both the Senate and Assembly passed the bill, and it now goes to Governor Cuomo's desk for his signature. This bill will immediately allow adults to possess up to 3 ounces of marijuana and will result in dispensaries selling marijuana in various forms across New York State. It also allows people to grow a limited number of marijuana plants at home. We reached out tonight to local state lawmakers to get their take on this consequential vote tonight, and here's what 2 of them had to say.
Marijuana criminalization has ruined lives for 90 years, and making sure that we can get people's lives back on track, that people are no longer losing their job or losing their opportunity to go to school because of marijuana charges, is going to be impactful for generations.
I don't think this is going to stop the illegality of selling it on the black market. I think it's only going to increase it. We're going to have more accidents on our roads and highways. They're going to create more deaths. And as we know from reading scientific research, it impairs judgment.
And while marijuana will become legal immediately, it will likely take more than a year before we see dispensaries actually selling it.